San Quentin, a fortress of concrete and steel, stands ominously over the shores of San Francisco Bay. Known for its despair, this prison has witnessed more than its share of violence and broken lives. Once labeled the most violent prison in America by the Department of Corrections, it's easy to understand why. For decades, it has been the site of numerous escape attempts, most ending in gunfire or the icy waters of the bay. But in 1979, something extraordinary occurred. An escape so bold and ingenious that it would forever alter the perception of this infamous institution. That year, San Quentin made headlines not for another tragedy, but for one of the most daring prison breaks in American history. Who orchestrated this incredible escape? And how did 3 inmates outsmart one of the most secure prisons in the country? This story is among the most astonishing and peculiar you'll ever hear, so stay tuned until the end. The mastermind behind this audacious plan was Forrest Tucker, a seasoned bank robber with a knack for evading the law. Tucker had already escaped from more prisons than most could imagine, yet even he would later describe this escape as his finest work, his masterpiece. San Quentin, referred to by inmates as the Arena, was no ordinary prison. It was a brutal, unforgiving place where violence was a daily reality. Inmates fought not just to survive, but to assert dominance in a world where weakness could be fatal. The prison itself was a relic of a bygone era, a massive fortress with 20-foot stone walls and guard towers manned by sharpshooters trained to shoot to kill. On 3 sides, inmates were hemmed in by walls that had never been breached. On the 4th, the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay served as a deadly moat, claiming the lives of countless would-be escapees. Authorities prided themselves on San Quentin's reputation as an impenetrable fortress, but Tucker saw it differently. To him, it was just another challenge to overcome. Since his teenage years, Tucker had been slipping out of jails and prisons with astonishing frequency. 17 escapes in total. Each escape added to his growing legend as one of the greatest escape artists of all time. For Tucker, escaping wasn't just about evading the law, it was about proving to himself and the world that he couldn't be caged. Growing up during the Great Depression, he idolized the gangsters of the era, men who lived by their own rules. Even as he approached 60, Tucker's mind remained sharp. When he was sentenced to 10 years in San Quentin in 1978 for an armed robbery in Modesto, he knew time wasn't on his side. At 60, a decade behind bars was a death sentence. From the moment he was handcuffed, he began plotting his next escape. Tucker's first challenge was getting out of the main prison building. San Quentin was designed to keep men like him in, but Tucker relied on his intellect rather than brute strength. He kept his eyes and ears open, and soon he discovered an opportunity: the prison's industrial workshop. Located outside the main building, the workshop had lax security compared to the rest of the prison. Inmates there built furniture for state offices, giving them access to tools and materials. Tucker saw this as his chance. By securing a job in the workshop, he could move freely between the main prison and the workshop, giving him the freedom to plan his escape. Tucker played the role of a harmless, aging inmate to perfection. He used his age and seemingly docile demeanor to lull the guards into a false sense of security. Soon, he was assigned to work near the waterfront, where the workshop was located. This was the first step toward freedom. Tucker knew he needed allies, and he found them in John Waller and William McGurk. Waller, known as the Rabbit for his history of escapes, was a skilled craftsman with access to the workshop's tools and materials. McGurk, a seasoned criminal with a history of successful escapes, brought his own expertise to the table. Together, the trio began planning their escape. Their plan was as audacious as it was risky. They would build a boat and sail to freedom. Using materials from the workshop, they constructed a 14-foot kayak. The boat was made from formica, plastic sheathing, and other materials they smuggled out of the workshop. To avoid detection, they worked in secret, assembling the boat piece by piece. They painted it in the colors of the local yacht club to blend in with the boats on the bay. They even fashioned makeshift paddles from plastic tubing and the tops of 5-gallon containers. The boat, which they named Rub-a-Dub-Dub after the nursery rhyme, was their ticket to freedom. On August 9, 1979, the day of the escape, everything was in place. The tide was high, and the bay was filled with boats from the Marin County Yacht Club's regatta. The trio assembled the boat in the workshop and disguised themselves in blue and yellow caps and jackets to mimic yacht club members. They carried the boat to the waterfront under the cover of a delivery truck, avoiding the watchful eyes of the guards. Once at the water's edge, they launched the boat and began paddling furiously toward freedom. The escape was far from smooth. The boat was overloaded, and the choppy waters of the bay threatened to swamp it. At one point, a guard spotted them but was fooled by their disguises. When asked if they were okay, McGurk replied, "Everything's fine. My Timex is still running." The guard, convinced they were just kayakers, let them pass. Despite the close call, the trio managed to paddle beyond the prison's boundaries. However, the boat began to sink under their combined weight. In a desperate bid for survival, they abandoned the boat and swam to shore, exhausted but free. Tucker, Waller, and McGurk went their separate ways after the escape. Tucker, ever the lone wolf, disappeared into the night. Waller made his way to the Larkspur Ferry terminal, where he claimed his sailboat had sunk. McGurk's fate remains a mystery, but all three men managed to evade capture long enough to disappear into the suburbs of Marin County. It wasn't until roll call later that afternoon that the prison realized 3 inmates were missing. By then it was too late. The escape became national news, a humiliating blow to San Quentin's reputation. Authorities launched a massive manhunt, but Tucker, Waller, and McGurk had already vanished. McGurk was captured a few months later, and Waller was arrested the following year. Tucker, however, remained at large for decades. He continued his life of crime, pulling off bank robberies and cons until he was finally arrested in 2000 at the age of 80. He spent his final years in prison, passing away in 2004. Forrest Tucker's escape from San Quentin remains one of the most daring prison breaks in American history. His ingenuity, determination, and sheer audacity cemented his legacy as one of the greatest escape artists of all time. The story of the Rub-a-Dub-Dub escape is a testament to the human spirit's unyielding desire for freedom, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds.